Hey, what's up, everybody? Alright, look, I was debating on even doing a video, but Smackdown, I'm just saying, this 3-hour joint needs to stop. I was like, the go home for Smackdown was not the go home on Raw. I'll tell you that. I was like, there was nothing here that was needed. There was nothing here really to talk about. It was really more just like, the hell we doing? I guess this is a way to send them all off. Like, you got to give them. Good thing Toronto gets 2 shows technically, cause this one I'd have been like, you can package this up and you can go ahead and ship this back. Back to America with this outfit. Look, I was like, the good I will say is the idea that they did for the chance for Shinsuke's U.S. Championship to basically have 3 matches and then a triple threat. I was like, cool. I was like, the participants, I was like, fine. Even though the matchups to me was like, why are we rehashing these same matchups though? That was sort of the only thing. Now I will say the Jacob Fatu Andrade one was a hell of a match. And it would probably better than, or I won't necessarily be better, but it gave more of what the people wanted. Because I was like, it was Solo at the time of when they announced the match. You know, Nick Aldis talking about it, but then we get Solo talking to Jacob, you know, and basically putting Jacob in there. I was like, I thought it was going. Okay, let's talk about the Solo Jacob thing. Jacob over here like, hey, you know that kick last week? That was basically an accident. So like, yeah, I kind of know. And cool, they on to the next thing where he's like, hey, like the talents of like getting this family back on get this like family back on track is the U.S. Championship. Okay, cool. I'm over here thinking Solo gonna get this. I was like, and he gonna prop up Jacob, being like, yo, we need to put you in the main title picture. Kind of, but not really. It's like, he's like, no, I want you to do the match because you going to bring home the whole thing. This is what I've been doing the whole time, basically, behind the scenes or whatever. And I was like, I'm just tell you right now, Tama Tonga also going to probably knock that dude. I don't know how, but he going to, because I was like, he just keep looking like, bro, why you touching me? Like, I don't know your hands been. I was like, Solo been stopping this dude full halt. I was like, either at the very beginning when he was told Jacob to go to the be in the match instead, or later on when he had his own promo. Also, this is like the second time in a row basically that they have advertised, like, you know, like one of them being in the match and that person's not in the match. You know what I'm saying? And it's just been weird. It's been weird on how they've been doing it. Whereas like last week, I think it was. I was like, where it was sort of advertised, it was supposed to be, we knew it was going to be Solo and Jacob. But then when we got to the actual part, Solo basically was like, oh man, you and Tama, that y'all going to do it. And Jacob had to tell him that, no, it's the 2 of us. And I'm like, well, we already know that they already announced it. So this should have played differently. Shouldn't have been playing reverse. Here, we get told that Solo's going to be the one in the U.S. match. But then he goes to tell Jacob. And I'm like, that one's not too bad. But this is the second time in a row that basically, with whatever we call this bloodline, they're not, even the show don't even got it correct. But anyway, I was like, the matchup, I was like, cool. Jacob and Andrade put on the show, even though I was like, I'm one of the people that I was like, Andrade did all that, and then basically a hip attack and a moonsault basically beat Andrade. And I was like, I wish it wasn't a spike DDT or whatever, but I get the rush of it. So I was like, I'll let that slide. But then we had Carmelo Hayes versus Braun Strowman. It's like, we already did this. LA Knight versus Santino Escobar. I was like, we already did this. Like, and I get it. There's not really too many other combinations you're going to really get into. I was like, but we already did the combination. I was like, I liked it, and it bothered me about Carmelo Hayes doing the whole Eddie Guerrero thing. I was like, I liked it because I was like, oh, this is cool, and it'd be cool because I was like, I think he's good enough to get it over, and that sort of being his thing that he can do. Maybe not all the time, but every now and then. I was like, what I didn't like it. I was like, that's why I was like, them putting you back in the Braun Strowman thing, where it's like the only way you could beat Braun Strowman is this way. And I'm like, come on, even Rey Mysterio done beat Big Show before. Like, what we doing here? And then Solo and them try to basically basically put Braun Strowman in a way where he wasn't going to qualify later on, which I was just like, I don't know how really that's helpful. It ain't like they helped Jacob Fatu later on in the triple threat either. When I actually thought that they were going to pull the trigger and have Carmelo Hayes win that one, just because I was like, oh, you can have Carmelo face Shinsuke now, and then like LA Knight gets it, and I was like, in the end, just because I was like, I knew once Jacob Fatu was in there, I was like, they're not gonna pull the trigger on Jacob this early. Nah, they're not gonna do it. So I was like, oh, LA Knight and Jacob got beef, so therefore I was like, oh, them two could go at it, and that leaves Carmelo Hayes with a chance to win, which they almost did. And by that, that didn't happen. Other than that, man, you were kind of trash. You were kind of trash from the whole Chelsea Green, Tiffany Stratton thing, where I was like, I thought Chelsea Green was supposed to have like a mystery opponent match, but then I was like, that didn't necessarily happen. So they did Tiffany Stratton, which I was like, you're going to do champion versus champion. I already know that this match is not going to lead to anything at all, because you can't have either one of them lose. I was like, you're not going to have either one of them get pinned. So it was a meaningless match the whole time. Hell, the only bright side about this whole thing was Trish Stratus being there in her jersey. I was like, I don't know how that lady, she's drinking some elixir or something like that. There ain't no way that she's over here still looking like that at that age. I was like, yoga or whatever. I was like, maybe that's what everybody needs to do. Maybe that's what we need to do, because DDP also looks really good at his age, and I'm like, he also be doing the yoga thing too. Maybe we just need to be doing yoga and whatever they drinking. I don't know what that is. But this match was basically for what? For who? I don't know why. The Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, I was like, that was a fine promo and stuff like that, just because it's like, hey, what else they going to do? I was like, they're very somber about it, so I was like, I like that, where it's like, hey, we're not going to, I was like, we didn't know reason to yell, they really don't do anything, we're just going to handle our business the next night. Cool. Then, I was like, if you was going to pick a show, this would probably be the show that I feel like if people wanted to complain about the women, this will be it. Because it's like that trash that we got with Tiffany Stratton and Chelsea Green, trash. There was that. Also, I feel like the way that we had that men's talking scramble versus the women's that was pretty much at a press conference, which I was like, I will say that it's like not too bad, because they did lead it to a match, and I was like, that to me, that I was like, you could have did that on the show, and it's 3 hours, so you could have did it on the show and had the women do that thing. I do understand that maybe you blended in with the guys and people would be like, oh, that's too much, but at the same time, might as well, from what we got with the guys, or at least the women's was just a brawl and everybody fighting. At least there was something to that. But then again, we had the men tag team that brawled as well too. But the women's at least led to a six-woman tag match, where I was like, Roxanne was able to get a surprise win just for Alexa Bliss to show up and do her thing, and that's it, because she's really the sixth person, not Raquel or whatever. But the women having their thing early on, I was like, I can see somebody pointing at that. Then we get to whatever the crap was between all the men tonight. If there was ever a time to basically realize that there's a difference of playing fields here, it is that, because, boy, was that, it was like the Drew part of it. Fine, I was like, I like Drew whole thing, because I was like, I like Drew, and that was cool. Priest comes out, and I was like, he had a couple one-liners like beating your ass at WrestleMania. I was like, dropping your ass when you tried to cash in or whatever. You so upset with CM Punk, look how you're sitting and stuff. And I think it would have been fine if it would have stayed with them. Then Seth Rollins comes out, and then it was like, oh, okay. I was like, okay, we can feel this, because I was like, he got beat with, he got not beat, but I was like, he beat Damian Priest, and he got some stuff with Drew. And I felt like they could have. And I felt like we were sort of getting to the point where it was like, oh, okay, Drew and Seth might overlap where they kind of both come from. Then CM Punk comes out there, and CM Punk just sort of demolishes everybody. And then we just sort of get CM Punk, Seth Rollins having a turn, Drew having a turn, and then you can see Damian in the background, just like nothing. And then like you can see him sort of trying to get something off, but kind of can't. And then he sort of does, and then we sort of have the two sides break off, and it was just kind of like, man, none of y'all are saying anything at this point. And then it did feel like where it was kind of like it did it twice. The first time was when it was Seth, Damian, and Drew, and they were just sort of talking. And then it was just quiet, and it was just like a stare down. And I was like, okay, so we're waiting for somebody to come out. Who's supposed to come out? Then eventually CM Punk comes out, where it takes so long that it was just awkward because they were obviously done with what they had to say. Then after that, when it was just the four of them all just sort of like griping to each other, then it was just like, you felt another pause of like, okay, what are we waiting on? Then seeing the music hit. And I was like, that was cool, because I was like, I did like, after Drew McIntyre was over here coming at Cena, basically, like, I was like, I can see you only like part of the time or whatever and stuff. And I was like, okay. And I was like, he did talk about Cena in a way. It was Logan Paul. Now look, I really don't kind of care about Logan Paul. Not in a way that like everybody be like, I don't care about Logan Paul, because y'all get irritated about him. So you do care about him. Like me, I was like, I don't really care. I was like, I'm really indifferent. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. If he comes in here and he's entertaining, he's entertaining. If he's not, he's not. That's it. But whatever he does, I was like, it's not enough for me to impact how I feel about him as far as like wrestling or whatever like that. If how y'all feel about him outside of WWE, that's what it is. It also was giving him his heat. You can debate on the kind of heat he gets. Fine. That's whatever. But for the most part, he doesn't do anything to me. I was like, I don't really care. I was like, some of y'all get more mad at him than a lot of other people that have some significant things over your lives. And I'm not even talking about what you think I'm talking about. Hell, it could just be somebody at your job. Anyway, I will say, all the stuff that people sort of talking about, at least with him in the ring, exposure. Sometimes I could be like, oh, he's actually a pretty decent mic guy or whatever. I was like, he always got like something to say. I was like, he'd come back sometime with some wittiness or whatever like that. I was like, first of all, him going to get CM Punk, especially I was like, this last Monday, nope. I was like, again here, nope. And I was just like, whatever is sort of, like, I've sort of been noticing, I was like, whatever it was from the beginning, like, I was like, I still think he's fine at wrestling, or whatever. I was like, whereas, like, back then, I was like, or a year or so ago, that's kind of like, okay, he polished some things up, he could be really good. And I think he still is just basically that. But I was like, but that's still fine. His mic work, especially this week, was garbage. He was so out of his element. He didn't have nothing to say. Like, it was, and what's weird is that I was like, it really felt like they were sort of just letting him say whatever he wanted to say. And I was like, I don't know, that's a good idea. I was like, against some people, you know, like how there's always an advantage. I was like, yeah, I think he does have that. I don't think this is not the group that he does. Seth, Drew, hell no, with CM Punk. And even then, I was like, I think Damian would also be able to, like, if like once that little like that script sort of like goes away, Damian Priest can actually say something and actually shoot. But kind of like sometimes you could tell where it's like, okay, he's doing what they tell him to do. They might work with his character and all this other stuff. But then sometimes when you peel that away and you just sort of like let him roll, like almost like what they was like, you let them roll instead of just sort of just come out and say what they got to say. I was like, they can actually do this thing. Because I was like, now they're actually really talking. And now they're actually roasting. Now they're actually able to talk like if somebody came up on the street and was just started coming at them. It's like, oh, okay, you really want to do that. No, Paul, no, it wasn't. And it was just hella awkward and hella cringy. And I was like, I don't normally get bothered by some of that stuff. But here, it was noticeable. Nope, that thing was nasty. I was like, this whole thing, you pretty much could have condensed it by like at least about 5 more minutes, and it would have been all right. I would have rather them do the John Cena thing, and everybody think it's John Cena, and then Logan Paul come down and hit somebody. I would have rather that. That's what they should have did. They should have just had him use that. I was like, cause even the thing with, and I was like, I'm not gonna lie, it also really felt like CM Punk really don't like to do. It's just different the way he sort of approaches. Like I'm not saying like him and Seth are friends. I was like, they might just be professionals, but it's that level of like professionalism. It don't feel like that way with Logan Paul. It feels like, nah, I don't like that dude. And for whatever reason, CM Punk obviously has a reason. That was not good. No. And I guess that pretty much is I would like the tag team brawl. I liked it, but this is also one of them things that also could have been cut short because it did get to the point where it's like, what are we doing? Like at first it was cool, and everybody was like wanting to fight. So was I. I was like, I like this Street Profit thing. They need to change their music to me. They needed. I like how like the New Day did. They got to change their theme music because that any money mo. Like that doesn't work when they're trying to be like serious the way that they are. It just doesn't work. They need to change their theme music. But everybody fighting, I was like, I'm fine with that. Obviously, I think we're building to WrestleMania where they're going to be in some type of gang war ladder match like they was last time or whatever. Last year was a whole bunch of them. Cool, fine. But it was where it was just sort of dragging. The referees were sort of there, and they, like, even commentary had to be like, they can't even stop it. There was only 2 of them. Then they brought out more, and it's like the way they were stopping them wasn't really also effective. And I know normally with a brawl, you probably only got like 2 to like 3 or maybe even 4 people. But when they're just like, 10 people, I was like, Garza Angel. I mean, Humberto against, you get what I'm talking about. I was like Street Profits. I was like Motor City. Pretty Deadly, DIY. That's 10 people. That's too many people. And then it was just that time where it was just kind of like, who fighting who? What's going on? Like I think it went from a decent, good brawl to just being like, okay, now it's a mess. Now it's a mess. And then you just sort of did that thing where it just kind of like the wrestler just sort of like you're animated and like the wrestler just kind of like, am I supposed to continue? Am I still jumping? We're going to come cut the commercial when we leave. Like, anyway, that was SmackDown. It was a clusterfuck of like mess. It really wasn't. And I was like, I've been on the good side of SmackDown here, or like people's stories and stuff like that. But this one, it was like I was like, that was some school cafeteria mystery meat food. It wasn't good. I was like, it wasn't good as a go-home show. I was like I said, I was debating on whether you would say anything. I was like, nothing really happened or nothing, but at the same time, it was really bad in a way that I was like, no. I was like, I will say I did sort of like the little bit that they was doing with the Cody Rhodes talking to everybody and him coming out to say his decision or whatever. And sure, whatever. I was like, well, we know it's going to really be tomorrow. And Mellow Miz. Other than that, that was SmackDown. Yeah. See you for Chamber. Peace. I'm out.